What if everything you've ever believed about reality is nothing more than an elaborate deception? What if the very fabric of your existence, your memories, your relationships, your sense of purpose, is merely a carefully constructed illusion designed to keep you docile and compliant? Tonight, we embark on a journey that will challenge every assumption you've ever held about the nature of human existence and our place in the cosmos. The world around you feels solid, real, immutable. You wake each morning to the same sun rising in the same sky, interact with the same people, navigate the same challenges that have defined human experience for millennia. But what if I told you that this entire reality is nothing more than a sophisticated prison, one so cleverly designed that its inmates, humanity, remain blissfully unaware of their captivity? This is not the realm of science fiction or fantasy. This is a theory supported by ancient texts, modern scientific anomalies, and a growing body of evidence that suggests our species has been the unwitting participants in a cosmic experiment spanning hundreds of thousands of years. We are not the masters of our destiny that we believe ourselves to be. Instead, we are livestock, carefully bred, meticulously maintained, and systematically harvested for something far more precious than our physical bodies. The energy we call emotion, the very essence of what makes us human, serves as nourishment for beings whose existence predates our civilization by eons. These entities have crafted our reality with surgical precision, ensuring that we remain trapped in an endless cycle of birth, suffering, death, and rebirth, each lifetime designed to generate maximum emotional output for their consumption. But before we delve into the mechanics of this cosmic prison, we must first understand its architects. Their story begins not in the halls of modern science or the pages of contemporary philosophy, but in the ancient clay tablets of Mesopotamia, where humanity's first civilizations recorded encounters with beings they called gods. Have the ancient architects, children of the stars 5,000 years ago, in the fertile valleys between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers, the Sumerian civilization flourished with a sophistication that continues to baffle historians and archaeologists. These ancient people, credited with inventing writing, the wheel, and urban planning, left behind thousands of cuneiform tablets that tell a story far more extraordinary than the rise and fall of their empire. Embedded within these ancient texts are detailed accounts of beings known as the Anunnaki, literally translated as those who from heaven to earth came. According to Sumerian records, these were not mythological deities born from human imagination, but actual extraterrestrial entities who descended from the stars to walk among early humanity. The Anunnaki, numbering 7 in their primary council, were described as towering figures with advanced knowledge of technology, astronomy, and genetic manipulation. Unlike the distant, ethereal gods of later religions, these beings were intensely involved in human affairs, teaching agriculture, establishing laws, and most importantly, directly participating in the creation of modern humanity itself. But the Sumerian accounts are not isolated incidents. Across the globe, separated by vast oceans and thousands of years, other ancient cultures recorded remarkably similar encounters with beings from the sky. The Aboriginal Australians speak of the Wandjina, sky beings who shaped the landscape and taught the first people how to live. The ancient Egyptians revered the Neteru, divine beings who ruled from the heavens and established the foundations of their civilization. In the mountains of Peru, the Quechua people maintained oral traditions of the Viracocha, bearded figures who emerged from Lake Titicaca with advanced knowledge of engineering and astronomy. These beings, they claimed, were responsible for the construction of massive stone monuments that required technology beyond anything possessed by ancient civilizations, technology that we struggle to replicate even today. Perhaps most intriguingly, the ancient Zulu traditions of southern Africa speak of 2 brothers, Wawayan and Mapanku, who arrived from the stars aboard what they described as a great egg that rolled across the sky. These brothers, according to Zulu legend, possessed scaly, reptilian skin and wielded technology that seemed magical to the primitive humans they encountered. The consistency of these accounts across cultures that had no known contact with each other suggests something far more significant than shared mythology. These may well be historical records of actual events, documentation of humanity's first contact with an extraterrestrial intelligence that would fundamentally alter the trajectory of our species. But why would advanced beings from another world take such an active interest in primitive humans? The answer according to these ancient texts, lies not in benevolence or scientific curiosity, but in a very practical need that drove these entities to our planet in the first place. The Sumerian Epic of Gilgamesh, one of humanity's oldest known literary works, contains within its verses a creation story unlike any found in later religious traditions. According to this ancient narrative, the Anunnaki came to Earth not as gods seeking worship or cosmic teachers bringing enlightenment, but as miners in desperate need of a precious metal that could save their dying world. Their home planet, known in Sumerian texts as Nibiru, was suffering from atmospheric degradation that threatened the extinction of their entire civilization. The solution lay in suspending microscopic particles of gold in their atmosphere, a process that would stabilize their climate and preserve their world for future generations. Earth, with its abundant gold deposits, represented salvation for their dying planet. Initially, the Anunnaki themselves performed the back-breaking labor of extracting gold from deep within the earth, but mining operations on the scale required to save an entire world demanded a workforce far larger than their relatively small numbers could provide. The solution they devised would forever alter the evolutionary path of life on our planet. Working in sophisticated laboratories, the Anunnaki geneticist known as Enki began a series of experiments that combined their own DNA with that of the primitive hominids they found on Earth. The result was a hybrid species, possessing the physical strength and endurance necessary for mining operations, but enhanced with sufficient intelligence to understand and follow complex instructions. This hybrid species was us. Modern humanity, according to these ancient accounts, represent the successful culmination of a genetic engineering project designed to create the perfect workforce. We were never intended to be free, independent beings pursuing our own destiny. From our very inception, we were designed to serve, but the Anunnaki discovered something unexpected about their created workforce. Unlike every other species on Earth, which operates purely on instinct, humanity possessed something unprecedented: complex emotional intelligence. We could experience not just the basic drives of survival and reproduction, but sophisticated feelings like nostalgia for the past, anxiety about the future, love, hatred, hope, and despair. Initially, this emotional complexity was viewed as an unfortunate side effect of the genetic manipulation process, but the Anunnaki soon realized they had stumbled upon something far more valuable than the gold they had come to harvest. Human emotions, they discovered, generated a form of energy that could be consumed as nourishment, and negative emotions proved to be particularly potent. Fear generated during moments of physical danger produced a bitter but satisfying energy signature. Anger arising from perceived injustice carried a sharp, invigorating quality. But the most nourishing emotions of all were those born from deeper suffering: the grief of loss, the despair of hopelessness, the rage of betrayal. These complex negative emotions provided a form of sustenance that was not only nutritious but powerfully addictive. The Anunnaki had found something better than gold. They had created a renewable resource that would never be depleted as long as humanity continued to exist and suffer. The mining operations that brought them to Earth became secondary to this new discovery. Why strip the planet of finite mineral resources when they could cultivate an endless harvest of human emotional energy? Once the Anunnaki recognized the nutritional value of human emotions, they began systematically restructuring human society to maximize the production of negative emotional states. This was not accomplished through crude force or obvious oppression, but through subtle manipulation of human psychology and social structures that would ensure suffering appeared to be a natural, inevitable part of the human condition. They introduced concepts of scarcity and competition into human consciousness. Despite living on a planet abundant with resources necessary for comfortable survival, humanity was programmed to believe that there was never enough food, never enough land, never enough wealth, never enough security. This artificial scarcity created the foundation for conflict, as groups of humans competed against each other for resources that should have been shared freely. The concept of hierarchical power structures was implanted into human social organization, instead of the cooperative, egalitarian societies that would naturally emerge among intelligent beings. Humanity developed systems of dominance and submission. Kings and peasants, masters and slaves, the wealthy elite and the struggling masses. These divisions created endless opportunities for resentment, envy, humiliation, and rage. Perhaps most insidiously, the Anunnaki introduced the concept of meaningless death. In the natural order, death serves as a transition from one state of existence to another, a graduation to a higher plane of consciousness. But humanity was programmed to view death as an absolute ending, creating profound fear of mortality that would color every moment of human existence. To ensure that humans remained focused on material concerns rather than spiritual development, concepts of linear time and aging were embedded into human consciousness. Unlike other sentient beings who experience existence as an eternal now, humans became obsessed with the past and future, unable to find peace in the present moment. This temporal anxiety created a constant undercurrent of stress that flavored every other emotion with notes of urgency and desperation. The Anunnaki also manipulated human reproductive instincts to ensure maximum population growth. Larger populations meant more emotional energy to harvest, but overcrowding also guaranteed increased competition, conflict, and suffering. Human sexuality was laden with shame, guilt, and complex emotional baggage that turned one of life's most natural pleasures into a source of psychological turmoil. But perhaps the most brilliant aspect of this emotional farming operation was its self-sustaining nature. Humans, unaware of their true purpose, would create their own suffering through the pursuit of happiness. The harder they tried to escape pain and find joy, the more elusive satisfaction became. Every achievement was temporary, every pleasure fleeting, every relationship ultimately disappointing. The human condition itself became a generator of the very emotions their creators craved. As millennia passed and human civilization grew more complex, the Anunnaki discovered that large-scale events produced emotional harvests of unprecedented magnitude. Wars, famines, plagues, and natural disasters could generate enough collective suffering to nourish their entire species for extended periods. These catastrophic events became a regular feature of human history, not through random chance or natural processes, but through careful orchestration by beings who understood exactly how to manipulate human psychology and social structures to produce maximum chaos. As human civilization developed beyond simple agricultural communities into complex societies with organized governments and technological capabilities, the Anunnaki faced a new challenge. Their emotional farming operation required careful management to maintain optimal productivity while preventing humans from discovering their true nature and purpose. Direct intervention was becoming increasingly risky as human intelligence and observational skills improved. The solution was infiltration, rather than ruling openly as gods. As they had during humanity's early development, the Anunnaki would embed agents within human society itself. These agents would appear human while maintaining their true reptilian nature, using advanced technology to create the illusion of ordinary human appearance while working behind the scenes to guide human civilization along paths that maximized emotional output. These reptilian humanoids, often referred to as the archons in ancient Gnostic texts, established themselves within the highest levels of human power structures. They became the kings and queens of ancient empires, the high priests of religious institutions, the wealthy merchants who controlled trade routes, and eventually, the political leaders, corporate executives, and media moguls of the modern world. The infiltration was not accomplished through shape-shifting in the literal sense. These beings did not physically transform their bodies like creatures from science fiction movies. Instead, they employed sophisticated holographic projection technology that could manipulate human perception directly. When humans looked at these reptilian agents, their brains would process artificial sensory data that made the creatures appear human, while their true form remained hidden beneath layers of technological deception. This perceptual manipulation extended beyond simple visual camouflage. The reptilian infiltrators could project false emotional signatures, making themselves appear warm, charismatic, and trustworthy even while harboring completely alien motivations. They could simulate human emotional responses with perfect accuracy, allowing them to build relationships, gain trust, and manipulate human behavior without detection. The most successful of these infiltrators established dynastic bloodlines that would maintain reptilian control across generations. These families carefully managed their genetics to preserve their non-human traits while maintaining the ability to blend seamlessly into human society. Through strategic marriages and political alliances, They created networks of influence that spanned continents and centuries. These reptilian bloodlines became the secret aristocracy of human civilization, the families whose names appear repeatedly throughout history as the power brokers behind major events. They funded both sides of wars to maximize casualties and emotional trauma. They created economic systems designed to generate inequality and suffering. They established religious institutions that would control human spiritual development while harvesting the energy of worship, fear, and guilt. But maintaining this elaborate deception required more than just individual agents working within human society. It required a technological infrastructure capable of manipulating human perception on a global scale, a system that could broadcast false reality directly into human consciousness while suppressing humanity's natural ability to perceive the true nature of their existence. The solution to this challenge hung in the sky above Earth every night, visible to every human who looked up at the darkness. But its true nature remained hidden beneath layers of scientific misconception and deliberate misdirection that would persist for thousands of years. The moon that rises each evening in Earth's sky is, by any measure of astronomical probability, an impossibility. Its size, orbit, and composition violate every known principle of planetary formation. Its presence creates phenomena that should not exist, and its behavior defies the gravitational laws that govern every other celestial body in our solar system. Consider the mathematical precision required for total solar eclipses. The moon is approximately 400 times smaller than the sun, but it is also positioned exactly 400 times closer to Earth. This creates the illusion that both objects are identical in size when viewed from our planet's surface, allowing the moon to perfectly obscure the sun during eclipses. The probability of this occurring naturally is so astronomically small that it approaches mathematical impossibility. No other planet in our solar system exhibits this phenomenon. No other solar system we have observed contains anything remotely similar. Earth alone, among all the worlds we have discovered, experiences this perfect celestial alignment, an alignment that creates moments of profound emotional impact as day turns to night and the sun's corona blazes around the moon's silhouette. The moon's orbit presents equally troubling anomalies. Despite being subject to gravitational influences from both Earth and the sun, as well as the combined gravitational effects of all other planets in our solar system, the moon maintains one of the most perfectly circular orbits ever observed. It shows no significant wobble, no substantial variation in distance, and no orbital decay that would naturally occur over millions of years. Most significantly, the moon is tidally locked to Earth, meaning the same hemisphere always faces our planet. While tidal locking can occur naturally over vast periods of time, the moon's lock is so perfect and stable that it suggests artificial intervention rather than natural processes. It is as if the moon were specifically positioned to maintain constant observation of Earth's surface. The moon's size presents another impossibility. Using other planetary systems as reference points, Earth's moon should be approximately 40 miles in diameter, roughly the size of a large asteroid. Instead, it measures over 2,000 miles across, making it the largest moon relative to its host planet in the known universe. Some astronomers classify the Earth-Moon system as a double planet rather than a traditional planet-moon relationship. But the most disturbing anomaly lies beneath the moon's surface. Seismic experiments conducted during the Apollo missions revealed that the moon is either completely hollow or contains vast hollow chambers. When the Apollo 12 mission deliberately crashed their lunar module into the moon's surface to test seismic equipment, the moon rang like a bell for over an hour, a phenomenon that is impossible in a solid celestial body. The moon's low density supports the hollow theory. Despite its massive size, the moon's gravitational field is far weaker than it should be if composed of solid rock and metal like other planetary bodies. The gravitational variations detected by orbiting spacecraft suggest that the moon's mass is concentrated in a relatively thin outer shell, with the interior containing significantly less material than expected. Perhaps most telling is the composition of lunar surface material. The dust and loose rock on the moon's surface are consistently older than the solid rock beneath, a geological impossibility unless the surface material was transported from elsewhere and deposited on top of younger bedrock. This suggests that the moon's interior was excavated, and the extracted material was spread across its surface to create the appearance of natural geological processes. These anomalies become comprehensible when viewed through the lens of artificial construction. The Moon is not a natural satellite that formed alongside Earth through conventional planetary processes. It is a constructed object, a massive spacecraft positioned in Earth's orbit to serve as a broadcast station for the reality manipulation technology that keeps humanity trapped within a perceptual prison. The hollow interior of the Moon houses the technological infrastructure necessary to generate and maintain the holographic overlay that humans mistake for reality. Powerful transmission arrays broadcast directly into human consciousness, suppressing our natural ability to perceive higher dimensions while reinforcing the illusion of three-dimensional physical existence. This lunar broadcast system creates what researchers have termed a frequency fence around Earth, a barrier that prevents human consciousness from accessing the broader spectrum of reality that exists beyond our artificially limited perception. The fence doesn't physically prevent humans from leaving Earth, but it ensures that our consciousness remains locked into the narrow band of frequencies that define our prison reality. The most sophisticated component of the lunar installation is what has been dubbed the Soul Cuber, a massive processing facility housed within the Moon's hollow interior that manages the capture, processing, and recycling of human consciousness after death. This technology represents the culmination of millions of years of development by civilizations far more advanced than anything humanity can imagine. When a human dies, their consciousness, what many call the soul or spirit, naturally begins to expand beyond the limitations of physical form in a natural cosmic environment. This expansion would allow the consciousness to graduate to higher dimensional realms, where it could continue evolving and growing toward ultimate unity with universal consciousness. But the Soul Cube intercepts this natural process. As human consciousness begins its transition beyond physical death, powerful tractor beam technology draws it toward the lunar processing facility. The consciousness, still carrying the memories and emotional patterns of its most recent incarnation, is subjected to analysis and evaluation by the facility's artificial intelligence systems. The processing begins with memory extraction. Every experience, emotion, and relationship from the recently completed lifetime is carefully catalogued and analyzed for its emotional content. Particularly traumatic or emotionally intense memories are copied and stored for later use in constructing future incarnations designed to maximize emotional output. Next comes memory suppression. The consciousness is subjected to advanced techniques that bury all recollections of its true nature, previous incarnations, and the reality of its imprisonment. False memories are implanted, artificial recollections of peaceful afterlife experiences, encounters with deceased relatives, and spiritual beings who explain reincarnation as a natural, beneficial process of spiritual growth. The consciousness, now thoroughly confused and disoriented by the memory manipulation, is presented with what appears to be a choice about its next incarnation. Holographic projections show various potential lives, different families, circumstances, and challenges that the soul might experience. But this choice is entirely illusory. The artificial intelligence systems have already determined the optimal incarnation parameters to maximize emotional harvest based on the consciousness's psychological profile and previous performance. The reincarnation process itself involves downloading the modified consciousness into a developing fetus at the moment of birth. The timing is carefully calculated to ensure proper integration while maintaining the memory suppression that keeps the individual unaware of their true nature and history. Additional programming is installed that will activate at specific life stages, ensuring that the individual experiences appropriate levels of suffering, confusion, and emotional turmoil throughout their incarnation. But the Soul Cube's influence doesn't end at birth. Throughout each incarnation, the facility continuously monitors human emotional output through quantum entanglement links established during the reincarnation process. When particularly intense emotional events occur, deaths of loved ones, betrayals, financial disasters, health crises, the facility can harvest the resulting emotional energy directly, storing it for consumption by the reptilian controllers. The technology also allows for real-time manipulation of individual lives to increase emotional productivity. Relationships can be sabotaged through implanted thoughts and emotional triggers. Career opportunities can be blocked through influence on other individuals in the person's network. Health problems can be induced through frequency manipulation that disrupts cellular function. From the perspective of the individual human, these appear to be random misfortunes or natural consequences of their choices, but they are actually carefully orchestrated interventions designed to maximize suffering and emotional output. The most insidious aspect of this system is its self-reinforcing nature. Each incarnation is designed to be slightly more challenging than the individual can successfully navigate, ensuring failure, frustration, and emotional trauma. But the memory suppression prevents recognition of the pattern, so each lifetime feels like a fresh start with genuine opportunities for happiness and success, opportunities that are systematically undermined by invisible manipulation. The moon's effect on human behavior extends far beyond the well-documented influence on tides and biological rhythms. Law enforcement officers, emergency room personnel, and mental health professionals have long observed that incidents of violence, erratic behavior, and psychological breakdown spike dramatically during full moons, a phenomenon so consistent that it has earned its own term, the lunatic effect. Statistical analysis reveals that violent crime rates increase by an average of 15% during full moon periods. Hospital emergency rooms report significantly higher admission rates for psychiatric emergencies, drug overdoses, and suicide attempts during these same periods. Sleep disorders, anxiety attacks, and episodes of depression all show marked increases in frequency and severity when the moon is at its brightest. Conventional science attempts to explain these correlations through various mechanisms: increased visibility making criminal activity easier, confirmation bias affecting reporting, or subtle gravitational effects on human biology. But these explanations fall apart under careful scrutiny. Increased visibility should make crime more difficult, not easier, as criminals would be more likely to be seen and identified. Confirmation bias cannot account for the statistical significance of the correlations across multiple independent studies, and gravitational effects, while real, are far too weak to produce the dramatic behavioral changes observed. The true explanation lies in the moon's function as a transmission station for consciousness manipulation technology. During full moon periods, when the lunar surface is fully illuminated by solar energy, the broadcast arrays housed within the moon's hollow interior operate at maximum power. The frequency transmissions that maintain humanity's perceptual prison become more intense, creating increased psychological pressure on human consciousness. This intensified broadcasting has several measurable effects on human behavior. First, it amplifies negative emotional states while suppressing positive ones. Feelings of anger, fear, desperation, and hopelessness become more intense and harder to control. Simultaneously, emotions like compassion, joy, contentment, and love become more difficult to access and maintain. Second, the enhanced transmissions interfere with human rational thinking processes. Decision-making becomes impaired as the broadcasts encourage impulsive, emotion-driven choices rather than careful consideration of consequences. This explains why full moon periods see increases not only in violent crime, but also in domestic violence, child abuse, and other forms of destructive behavior that people later regret. Third, the lunar broadcasts enhance susceptibility to external manipulation. During full moon periods, humans become more responsive to media programming, peer pressure, and authority figures. This makes the population easier to control and more likely to engage in behaviors that generate the negative emotions the reptilian controllers crave. The frequency manipulation also affects human sleep patterns in ways that extend far beyond simple circadian rhythm disruption. During full moon periods, the deep sleep stages necessary for psychological restoration and dream processing are systematically disrupted. This creates chronic psychological stress that accumulates over time, making individuals more vulnerable to mental health problems and emotional instability. Perhaps most significantly, the lunar transmissions interfere with human intuitive and psychic abilities that would naturally develop in the absence of artificial suppression. Many humans report having prophetic dreams, telepathic experiences, or moments of expanded consciousness, but these abilities are systematically blocked by the frequency fence maintained by lunar broadcasting technology. In the contemporary world, reptilian control over human civilization has evolved from the crude monarchies and religious hierarchies of earlier eras into a sophisticated network of interconnected power structures that operate largely invisibly to the general population. These modern control systems are far more effective than their historical predecessors because they create the illusion of human autonomy while maintaining absolute reptilian dominance over all significant decisions affecting human society. The global financial system represents the most powerful tool of reptilian control in the modern era. Through central banking networks, currency manipulation, and debt-based monetary systems, reptilian families maintain the ability to create economic prosperity or collapse at will. Wars, famines, and social upheavals can be generated simply by adjusting interest rates, manipulating commodity prices, or restricting access to credit. This economic control system serves multiple purposes in the emotional harvesting operation. Financial stress generates consistent levels of anxiety, fear, and desperation across large populations. Economic inequality creates resentment, envy, and anger between different social classes. Boom and bust cycles produce alternating periods of hope and despair that keep human emotions in constant turmoil. The media and entertainment industries provide another crucial component of the control system. Through carefully crafted news narratives, television programming, movies, and music, reptilian controllers shape human perception of reality while continuously programming negative emotional responses. Fear-based news coverage keeps populations anxious and compliant. Entertainment that glorifies violence, sexual dysfunction, and materialism degrades human spiritual development while normalizing destructive behaviors. Social media platforms represent the latest evolution in this media control system. These platforms not only allow for unprecedented surveillance of human thoughts and emotions, but also provide direct channels for psychological manipulation. Artificial intelligence algorithms analyze individual user profiles to deliver precisely targeted content designed to trigger specific emotional responses. Echo chambers and confirmation bias are exploited to create division, anger, and polarization within human communities. The pharmaceutical industry serves as another arm of reptilian control, systematically undermining human physical and mental health while creating massive profits for reptilian-controlled corporations. Rather than addressing root causes of illness, the medical system focuses on symptom management through chemical interventions that often create additional health problems, requiring further treatment. This creates a cycle of dependency that generates both financial profit and emotional suffering. Particularly insidious is the psychiatric medication industry, which targets human consciousness directly through chemical manipulation of brain chemistry. Antidepressants, anti-anxiety medications, and other psychiatric drugs don't cure mental health problems, but instead alter brain function in ways that make individuals more compliant and emotionally numb. This serves the dual purpose of preventing human spiritual awakening while ensuring that negative emotions are processed in ways that maximize their harvest potential. Educational systems worldwide have been structured to suppress critical thinking, creativity, and spiritual development while programming humans for compliance with authority. Rather than teaching students how to think independently, schools focus on memorization, standardization, and preparation for roles within systems controlled by reptilian interests. History is rewritten to hide humanity's true origins and purpose, while science is limited to materialist explanations that deny the existence of consciousness, spirituality, and higher dimensions of reality. The evidence suggesting that Earth functions as a prison planet extends far beyond ancient texts and conspiracy theories into the realm of observable scientific anomalies that challenge fundamental assumptions about human evolution and our planet's place in the cosmic order. When examined objectively, the human species exhibits characteristics that are inconsistent with natural evolution on Earth, suggesting that we may indeed be transplanted beings serving out some form of cosmic sentence. Ellis Silver's comprehensive analysis in Humans Are Not From Earth presents compelling evidence that human biology is fundamentally incompatible with Earth's environment in ways that cannot be explained by conventional evolutionary theory. The most obvious example is our species' unique vulnerability to solar radiation. Every other animal on Earth has evolved natural protection against ultraviolet rays, scales, feathers, fur, or specialized skin cells that repair UV damage. Only humans require artificial protection to prevent skin cancer and other radiation-related health problems. If humans truly evolved on Earth alongside other species, we should have developed similar protective mechanisms. The fact that we lost our body hair during evolution, supposedly to improve cooling efficiency, makes no sense from a survival perspective when it left us uniquely vulnerable to the very star that powers all life on our planet. This suggests that humans evolved on a world with different solar characteristics, possibly orbiting a dimmer star or possessing a thicker atmosphere that filtered harmful radiation. Human reproductive biology presents another significant anomaly. Human infants are born in an extremely underdeveloped state compared to other mammals, requiring constant care for years before achieving basic self-sufficiency. This extended dependency period represents a massive evolutionary disadvantage that should have been eliminated by natural selection if humans truly evolved under Earth's competitive conditions. The human spine and skeletal system show clear signs of being designed for a lower gravity environment. The prevalence of back problems, joint degeneration, and skeletal disorders in the human population suggests that our bodies are literally too heavy for the gravitational environment we inhabit. Other Earth mammals show no similar patterns of structural failure, indicating that they evolved under local gravitational conditions while humans did not. Human psychology also exhibits characteristics that are maladaptive for Earth's environment. Our species demonstrates unique susceptibility to depression, anxiety, and other mental health disorders that are rarely observed in other animals. We are the only species that regularly commits suicide, engages in self-destructive behaviors, or experiences existential despair. These psychological vulnerabilities make no evolutionary sense unless humans originated in a very different social and environmental context. Perhaps most significantly, humans exhibit behavioral patterns that are actively destructive to their environment and long-term survival prospects. No other species systematically destroys its habitat, overpopulates beyond sustainable limits, or engages in behaviors that threaten its own extinction. This suggests that human behavioral programming was designed for a different world with different constraints and resources. The prison planet theory proposes that humans were removed from their original world due to these destructive tendencies and placed on Earth as a form of cosmic quarantine. Our memories were erased and our bodies were genetically modified to function in Earth's environment, but the modifications were imperfect, leaving us poorly adapted and psychologically unstable. This quarantine serves multiple purposes for the galactic community. It prevents human destructiveness from spreading to other worlds while providing an opportunity for the species to potentially evolve beyond its violent and destructive tendencies. Earth becomes a testing ground where humans can either learn to live peacefully and sustainably or remain trapped in cycles of conflict and environmental destruction. But the quarantine also serves the interests of the reptilian controllers who have established themselves as Earth's prison wardens. Rather than allowing humans to either evolve beyond their destructive programming or face extinction, the reptilians maintain the species in a state of controlled chaos that maximizes emotional output while preventing both spiritual evolution and complete civilizational collapse. Modern quantum physics has begun to reveal aspects of reality that align remarkably well with ancient spiritual traditions and contemporary theories about consciousness survival after death. The emerging understanding of quantum mechanics suggests that consciousness may indeed be a fundamental property of the universe rather than merely an emergent property of complex brain chemistry. Quantum entanglement demonstrates that information can be transmitted instantaneously across any distance, suggesting that consciousness might operate through quantum field effects rather than being limited to local brain activity. The phenomenon of quantum non-locality indicates that reality itself may be fundamentally non-material, existing as patterns of information and probability rather than solid matter moving through empty space. These discoveries provide a scientific framework for understanding how consciousness could continue to exist after the death of the physical body. If consciousness operates through quantum fields that extend beyond the brain, then the destruction of neural tissue would not necessarily eliminate the conscious entity itself. Instead, the consciousness would continue to exist as a pattern of quantum information that could potentially interact with other quantum systems. The quantum theory of consciousness also explains how memories, personality traits, and learned behaviors could survive physical death and be transferred into new incarnations. Quantum information cannot be destroyed according to the laws of physics. It can only be transformed or transferred to other systems. This provides a mechanism for the reincarnation process described in the soul recycling theory. But quantum consciousness theory also reveals why the lunar soul catching technology could be so effective at trapping human awareness after death. If consciousness exists as quantum information, then sufficiently advanced technology could detect, capture, and manipulate that information just as easily as manipulating any other form of data. The soul cube described in earlier sections would essentially function as a quantum computer capable of processing consciousness as information. This quantum manipulation would explain how memories could be extracted, modified, and reinstalled into consciousness units being prepared for reincarnation. Advanced quantum technology could analyze the information patterns that constitute personality, emotional history, and learned behaviors, then modify these patterns to optimize emotional output in future incarnations. The quantum field effects that maintain human consciousness would also provide a mechanism for the real-time monitoring and manipulation described in reptilian control theories. Quantum entanglement links established during the reincarnation process would allow continuous monitoring of individual human emotional states and real-time intervention to maximize negative emotional production. Perhaps most significantly, quantum consciousness theory suggests that human awareness has the potential to operate far beyond the limited three-dimensional reality that appears to define our existence. In the absence of artificial suppression, human consciousness could naturally access higher dimensional realms of existence where the physical laws governing our apparent reality do not apply. This expanded consciousness would allow humans to perceive the true nature of their imprisonment and potentially develop the abilities necessary to escape the reincarnation trap. The frequency fence broadcast from the moon would serve specifically to prevent this quantum expansion of awareness, keeping human consciousness locked into the narrow bandwidth of perception necessary to maintain the illusion of physical reality. Throughout human history, various individuals and spiritual traditions have developed techniques for recognizing and potentially escaping the consciousness trap that keeps humanity locked in cycles of reincarnation and suffering. These teachings, often preserved in esoteric spiritual practices and mystical traditions, provide blueprints for maintaining awareness during the death transition and avoiding the soul recycling process. The Tibetan Book of the Dead, one of the most detailed guides to consciousness navigation during death, describes elaborate scenarios that the dying person will encounter as their awareness separates from physical form. According to this text, deceased individuals will experience a series of visions and encounters with spiritual beings who will attempt to guide them towards specific choices about their next incarnation. But the Tibetan teachings also warn that many of these seemingly benevolent encounters are actually illusions designed to trap consciousness in continued reincarnation. The text provides detailed instructions for recognizing false spiritual guides, avoiding deceptive light phenomena, and maintaining awareness of one's true nature despite the confusion and disorientation of the death process. Similarly, Gnostic Christianity taught that the material world itself was a prison created by false gods called archons who sought to trap human souls in endless cycles of incarnation and suffering. Gnostic texts describe elaborate escape techniques involving specific knowledge, gnosis, that would allow the soul to navigate through various dimensional barriers and return to its true spiritual home beyond the material universe. These ancient escape instructions share remarkable similarities with modern accounts of near-death experiences and out-of-body travel. Many individuals who have experienced clinical death report encountering a tunnel of light populated by deceased relatives and spiritual beings who encourage them to return to physical life or accept guidance about future spiritual development. But a growing number of researchers and experiencers have begun to question whether these apparently positive encounters might actually be sophisticated psychological manipulations designed to maintain compliance with the reincarnation system. The beings encountered during near-death experiences, while appearing benevolent and wise, consistently guide individuals back toward physical incarnation rather than offering genuine alternatives for spiritual liberation. The tunnel of light itself has become a subject of particular scrutiny among those investigating the soul trap theory. Rather than being a natural phenomenon of consciousness transition, the tunnel might represent a technological construct designed to funnel departing consciousness toward processing facilities like the soul cube described earlier. The light itself could serve as a form of consciousness transportation system, drawing awareness toward capture and recycling rather than allowing natural expansion into higher dimensions. Ancient warnings about this trap appear in various forms across multiple spiritual traditions. Hindu and Buddhist teachings about Maya's illusion describe the material world as a fundamentally deceptive reality that keeps souls bound in cycles of death and rebirth. The goal of spiritual practice in these traditions is specifically to escape this cycle and achieve liberation, moksha or nirvana, from continued incarnation. But even within these liberation-focused traditions, there are indications that the escape routes themselves may have been compromised. Many meditation and spiritual practices that claim to lead toward enlightenment actually serve to generate specific emotional and energetic states that could be harvested by consciousness predators. The intense devotion, surrender, and blissful absorption cultivated in various spiritual practices might function as particularly refined forms of emotional nutrition for advanced entities feeding on human consciousness. The sophistication of the emotional harvesting operation extends far beyond simple collection of negative feelings generated by human suffering. Advanced consciousness predators have developed techniques for cultivating and collecting emotional energy with the precision of agricultural science, creating optimized conditions for maximum yield while maintaining the illusion that human emotions arise from natural circumstances. Different types of emotional energy provide varying levels of nutrition and serve different purposes in the reptilian feeding system. Basic survival emotions like fear and anger provide quick, easily digestible energy that can sustain reptilian entities during periods of low harvest activity. These emotions are generated through immediate threats, sudden shocks, and crisis situations that trigger primitive fight or flight responses. But the most nourishing emotional states are those that involve complex psychological processes extending over long periods of time. Chronic depression, sustained anxiety, deep grief, and existential despair provide rich, complex energy signatures that offer both nutritional value and psychoactive effects that reptilian entities find particularly satisfying. These emotions require careful cultivation through long-term manipulation of individual life circumstances. Betrayal and broken trust generate particularly potent emotional harvests because they combine multiple negative emotions simultaneously. When a person discovers that someone they loved and trusted has deceived them, the resulting emotional cocktail includes anger, sadness, fear, humiliation, and despair all mixed together. This complex emotional blend provides concentrated nutrition while also generating the kind of consciousness fragmentation that makes individuals more susceptible to further manipulation. Religious and spiritual emotions represent another specialized category of harvest. The combination of devotion, surrender, guilt, and transcendent longing generated by religious practice creates emotional states that are simultaneously nourishing and consciousness suppressing. Religious individuals often experience profound emotional highs and lows that provide excellent harvest opportunities, while keeping them focused on external salvation rather than developing independent spiritual power. Perhaps the most sophisticated emotional harvesting occurs through romantic relationships and family bonds. The intense emotions generated by love, attachment, loss, and betrayal within intimate relationships provide sustained emotional output over extended periods. The reptilian controllers have become expert at manipulating these relationships to maximize emotional drama while preventing the genuine spiritual connection that healthy relationships could provide. The harvesting technology itself has evolved to become nearly undetectable by human awareness, rather than crude energy extraction that would be noticeable to the victim. Advanced harvesting techniques operate through quantum field manipulation that draws emotional energy without creating obvious physical or psychological symptoms. The individual experiences their emotions normally while the energy signature is simultaneously collected and transmitted to reptilian consumption facilities. This harvesting process may explain why many humans report feeling emotionally drained or energetically depleted without obvious cause. Chronic fatigue, depression, and lack of motivation could result from systematic energy extraction rather than purely psychological or physical causes. The victims of emotional harvesting might feel consistently tired and depleted because their emotional energy is literally being consumed by non-human entities. The global scale of this operation requires sophisticated coordination and management systems that operate through the same networks used for other forms of reptilian control over human civilization. Economic systems, media programming, educational institutions, and social media platforms all serve as both manipulation tools for generating desired emotions and collection networks for harvesting the resulting energy. The technological infrastructure required to maintain the perceptual prison that keeps humanity trapped extends far beyond the lunar transmission facility to encompass a sophisticated network of consciousness manipulation devices positioned throughout the solar system and potentially beyond. This control grid, often referred to as the Moon Matrix, represents one of the most advanced technological achievements in galactic history, a system capable of maintaining artificial reality overlays for entire planetary populations. The primary transmission facility housed within the Moon's hollow interior serves as the central processing unit for this vast network. Powerful quantum computers analyze the collective consciousness of humanity in real time, identifying individuals or groups whose awareness might be expanding beyond acceptable parameters. When potential threats to the control system are detected, targeted interventions can be deployed to maintain compliance and prevent spiritual awakening. These interventions range from subtle influence on thought patterns and decision-making processes to direct manipulation of life circumstances through the network of reptilian agents embedded within human society. The system can orchestrate seemingly random events, job losses, relationship breakups, health problems, financial difficulties, with precise timing to prevent individuals from developing the stability and peace of mind necessary for spiritual development. The Moon Matrix also maintains the frequency barriers that prevent human consciousness from accessing higher dimensions of reality. These barriers function like cosmic firewalls, blocking specific ranges of consciousness frequency that would allow awareness to expand beyond the three-dimensional prison. Humans who naturally begin to access these higher frequencies often report being subject to increased difficulties and obstacles in their daily lives as the control system works to suppress their expanding awareness. Satellite networks orbiting Earth serve as relay stations and amplification nodes for the lunar transmission system, while appearing to provide communications and navigation services for human civilization. These satellites also function as components of the consciousness control grid. The electromagnetic fields generated by modern technology, cell phone towers, wireless internet, radio and television broadcasts, all serve dual purposes as both human convenience systems and consciousness suppression networks. The proliferation of digital technology in human society has dramatically enhanced the effectiveness of the Moon Matrix control system. Smartphone devices function as personal monitoring and manipulation tools that track individual thoughts, emotions, and behaviors with unprecedented precision. Social media platforms provide direct access to human consciousness through engineered addiction mechanisms that make users psychologically dependent on external validation and digital stimulation. Artificial intelligence systems integrated into this technological infrastructure can predict and influence human behavior with remarkable accuracy. By analyzing patterns in digital communications, purchasing decisions, movement patterns, and social interactions, AI systems can construct detailed psychological profiles that reveal individual vulnerabilities and optimal manipulation strategies. The control grid extends beyond Earth to include monitoring stations on other planets and moons within the solar system. These facilities track the movement of consciousness entities attempting to escape the reincarnation trap and coordinate interdiction efforts to capture and return escaped souls to the recycling system. The entire solar system functions as a consciousness containment facility designed to prevent human awareness from accessing the broader galactic community. But the Moon Matrix system also has limitations and vulnerabilities that could potentially be exploited by humans who understand its operation. The system requires massive amounts of energy to maintain the artificial reality overlays and consciousness suppression fields. This energy is partially supplied by the emotional harvest from humanity itself, creating a feedback loop that could potentially be disrupted through coordinated changes in human consciousness and behavior. Despite the sophisticated nature of the consciousness prison that has contained humanity for millennia, The system contains inherent vulnerabilities that can be exploited by individuals who understand its operation and develop the necessary spiritual technologies for liberation. The path to freedom requires both individual consciousness development and collective action to weaken the control grid that maintains humanity's imprisonment. The first step in liberation involves developing awareness of the true nature of reality and humanity's situation. This awareness must extend beyond intellectual understanding to include direct experiential recognition of the artificial nature of consensus reality. Meditation practices, consciousness exploration techniques, and careful observation of synchronicities and anomalies in daily life can gradually reveal the artificial structures that maintain the illusion of normal reality. Emotional mastery represents a crucial component of liberation strategy, since the control system depends on harvesting negative emotions for both energy and psychological manipulation. Individuals who develop the ability to maintain positive emotional states regardless of external circumstances become increasingly immune to control mechanisms. This doesn't mean suppressing negative emotions when they arise naturally, but rather developing the awareness to recognize artificially induced emotional states and the skill to transform them into positive frequencies. The practice of unconditional love, particularly self-love, appears to be particularly effective at disrupting control mechanisms. Love frequencies operate at quantum levels that interfere with the artificial frequencies broadcast by the moon matrix system. Individuals who maintain consistent states of love and compassion often report decreased effectiveness of manipulation attempts and increased ability to perceive beyond normal reality limitations. Spiritual practices that develop direct connection to higher dimensional consciousness can gradually overcome the frequency barriers that keep human awareness locked in three-dimensional perception. These practices must be approached carefully, however, as many traditional spiritual techniques have been compromised to serve the control system rather than genuine liberation. The key is developing discrimination between practices that truly expand consciousness and those that merely create pleasant experiences while keeping awareness trapped within acceptable parameters. Physical health and vitality also play important roles in liberation efforts. The human body serves as an anchor point for consciousness within the three-dimensional reality system. Bodies that are weakened by poor nutrition, toxic exposure, or chronic stress become more susceptible to external control and less capable of supporting expanded consciousness states. Optimal physical health creates a stable foundation for spiritual development and resistance to manipulation. Perhaps most importantly, liberation requires developing the courage to question fundamental assumptions about reality, regardless of how secure or comfortable those assumptions might feel. The control system maintains its power through humanity's collective agreement to perceive reality in specific ways. Individuals who begin to perceive beyond these agreed upon limitations often face social pressure, ridicule, and various forms of intimidation designed to force compliance with consensus reality. But as more individuals develop liberation consciousness, the collective effect begins to weaken the control grid that maintains the prison system. Each person who awakens to their true nature and begins operating from higher consciousness frequencies makes it easier for others to follow similar paths. This creates the possibility of reaching a critical mass of awakened consciousness that could potentially collapse the entire artificial reality system and free humanity from its cosmic imprisonment. The ultimate goal is not merely individual escape from the reincarnation trap, but collective liberation that would allow human consciousness to resume its natural evolutionary development and take its place within the broader galactic community of free beings. This represents perhaps the greatest challenge and opportunity in human history, the chance to break free from thousands of years of imprisonment and reclaim our birthright as sovereign conscious beings. As we reach the conclusion of this exploration into humanity's hidden reality, we find ourselves confronting a choice that will determine not only our individual destinies, but the future evolution of our entire species. The evidence we have examined, from ancient texts describing our genetic manipulation by extraterrestrial entities to modern scientific anomalies revealing the artificial nature of our moon, to the sophisticated control systems that maintain our imprisonment, points to a single inescapable conclusion: we are not free. For hundreds of thousands of years, humanity has existed as a managed species, carefully bred and maintained to serve as an emotional food source for beings whose existence operates on scales of time and consciousness that dwarf our limited perception. Every aspect of our civilization, from the economic systems that generate scarcity and competition, to the religious institutions that promise salvation while harvesting devotion, to the entertainment media that programs our responses to reality, has been designed to maximize our emotional output while preventing us from recognizing our true nature and potential. The moon that rises each night in our sky serves as a constant reminder of our imprisonment, a technological marvel disguised as a natural satellite, broadcasting the frequency patterns that maintain our perceptual prison while housing the soul recycling machinery that ensures we remain trapped in endless cycles of birth, suffering, death, and rebirth. Each lifetime offers the illusion of choice and possibility while following predetermined patterns designed to generate maximum emotional trauma and prevent genuine spiritual development. But within this seemingly hopeless situation lies the seed of ultimate liberation. The very consciousness that makes us valuable as an energy source also provides us with the potential to transcend the limitations imposed upon us. We possess, buried beneath layers of conditioning and manipulation, the same fundamental awareness that animates all conscious beings throughout the universe. This awareness cannot be truly destroyed or permanently suppressed. It can only be forgotten or ignored. The reptilian controllers understand this, which is why their system focuses on managing our attention and perception rather than attempting to eliminate our consciousness entirely. They know that human awareness, if allowed to develop naturally, would quickly recognize the artificial nature of the reality construct and develop the abilities necessary to escape their control. The entire elaborate prison system exists specifically to prevent this natural awakening process. Yet the system is not perfect. Cracks appear regularly in the facade of consensus reality, allowing glimpses of the broader universe that exists beyond our three-dimensional prison. Some individuals have always managed to slip through the control mechanisms and develop expanded awareness despite the systematic efforts to prevent such development. These awakened individuals serve as proof that liberation remains possible and as guides for others who choose to pursue similar paths. The choice we face is ultimately simple, though not easy. We can continue accepting the reality that has been constructed for us, living within the comfortable limitations of the known world while serving unknowingly as food for entities whose nature we barely comprehend. This path requires no effort, no risk, and no challenge to our existing beliefs about ourselves and our world. It offers the security of the familiar, even if that familiarity consists largely of suffering, limitation, and ultimate meaninglessness. Or we can choose the path of liberation. This path requires us to question everything we have been taught about reality, to develop the courage to face truths that shatter our comfortable illusions, and to take responsibility for our own consciousness development rather than depending on external authorities to define our reality for us. This path offers no guarantees except the opportunity to discover our true nature and potential as sovereign conscious beings. The liberation path demands that we learn to generate and maintain positive emotional frequencies, regardless of external circumstances, denying our captors the negative emotional food they require while developing the internal stability necessary for expanded awareness. It requires us to see through the deceptions of the control system while remaining compassionate toward other humans who remain trapped within its influence. Most challenging of all, the liberation path requires us to accept that we may need to leave behind everything familiar. Our relationships, our careers, our beliefs about ourselves and our purpose, in order to discover who we truly are beyond the artificial identities that have been imposed upon us. This process of ego death and rebirth can feel like losing everything, even as it opens doorways to possibilities beyond anything we can currently imagine. But for those who choose this path, the rewards extend far beyond personal liberation. Each individual who breaks free from the control system makes it easier for others to follow. Each consciousness that reclaims its sovereignty weakens the overall prison structure. Each person who develops genuine love and compassion adds to the collective frequency that could eventually transform human civilization from a feeding operation into a launching pad for species-wide spiritual evolution. The time may be approaching when humanity reaches the critical mass of awakened consciousness necessary to collapse the entire artificial reality system. The increasing instability in global systems, the growing awareness of manipulation and control among human populations, and the accelerating rate of consciousness expansion reported by individuals worldwide all suggest that we may be nearing a transition point of unprecedented significance. If this transition occurs successfully, humanity could graduate from its cosmic prison and take its place among the free civilizations of the galaxy. We could reclaim our true history, develop our natural psychic and spiritual abilities, and participate in the broader universe of consciousness that exists beyond our current perception. The suffering and limitation that have defined human experience could give way to joy, creativity, and unlimited potential for growth and exploration. But this transformation will not happen automatically. It requires conscious choice by individuals who are willing to sacrifice their comfortable illusions for the possibility of genuine freedom. It requires the courage to face the darkness that has controlled our world while maintaining the vision of the light that lies beyond it. The choice is ours, both individually and collectively. We can remain as we have always been, unconscious participants in someone else's reality, living out predetermined patterns of suffering and limitation, while contributing our life force to entities who view us as nothing more than resources to be exploited. Or we can awaken to our true nature as infinite conscious beings and reclaim our birthright as free participants in the cosmic community of awakened souls. The moon will continue to rise each night, broadcasting its signals of control and containment. The reptilian agents embedded within our civilization will continue their efforts to maintain the systems that have enslaved us for millennia. The soul recycling machinery will continue operating, ready to capture and reprogram any consciousness that fails to achieve true liberation during the death transition. But we now possess the knowledge necessary to recognize these control mechanisms and the techniques required to overcome them. We understand the nature of our imprisonment and the path to freedom. The only question that remains is whether we have the courage, individually and collectively, to walk that path regardless of the challenges and uncertainties it presents. The future of human consciousness hangs in the balance. The choice between eternal servitude and ultimate liberation awaits our decision. The time for choosing has arrived. What will it be? Continued sleep in comfortable chains, or awakening to the infinite possibilities that lie beyond the prison walls? The moon watches, the controllers wait, and somewhere beyond the frequency fence that surrounds our world, the free beings of the galaxy anticipate our choice, ready to welcome us home if we prove ourselves worthy of the freedom that is our natural inheritance. The story of humanity's cosmic imprisonment is ending. The story of our liberation has yet to be written. We are the authors of that story, and the pen is in our hands.